A job will tire you out, but doing something you're passionate with, you do that every day. You do that every day nonstop. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, the room that you're sitting in, is this the thing that you'd rather do right here, right now? Is this the thing that you want to do? If it's not, then what are you doing here? Is your goal to make money or actually start this company? Because if your job is to make money, I'll tell you right now, there's about like 10,000 more things that will make you money. You don't have to start a company.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Built Not Born, the startup go-to-market podcast by Venture Guides. I'm Sage Nye, and around here, we believe that great companies are built, not born, one smart decision at a time. Each week, we take you through real conversations with founders, investors, and go-to-market experts on what it really takes to land customers and scale your startup. Now, let's get to work. Hello, and welcome to Built Not Born. I am Sage Nye, venture partner at Venture Guides. And we have a really exciting episode for you today because as we talk to founders, one of the things that comes up a lot is getting in the head of the customer. And so with us today, we have Miguel Navarro, innovator, patented inventor, fraud fighter, customer-centric leader, and most importantly, a domain expert from a customer perspective. So we're going to be spending time with Miguel today talking about your background, how you ended up getting excited and interested in technology, what you look for with companies, and then we'll wrap up with some advice for future founders and leaders that are looking to focus on customers. So, Miguel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd love to start giving the audience some context. Can you share a little bit about your background and how you ended up in technology?
Oh, sure thing. I mean, like, how much time do we have? I would say we can start all the way back from the beginning. One of the things I typically tell folks is life has this very funny joke where a lot of the things that are good for you don't typically taste good. And the things that are not necessarily good for you taste awesome. So in my life, in the very beginning, when we were in Philippines and we were growing up, I would say we definitely did not have the luxuries that we have here now in the United States. Definitely lived a very colorful childhood. One of the things I definitely remember is all my neighbors, my friends would have the most up-to-date Nintendo or like the game systems. And then my brother and I would have to essentially work with computers that had like the minimum requirement. And don't get me wrong, like my parents worked really hard, et cetera, for us to get what we had, but we knew the difference, So my brother and I remember would start programming at a very early age. So I think my love for engineering and computer really came out of necessity. So my brother was at college at the time, and I was, I believe, at the fourth grade, and he started teaching me how to program, and we programmed the game together, and it just kind of blew up from there. And from there, just my love for electronics and games really drove my love for programming, and I just looked at it as solving puzzles. So when I first moved to the United States, which, by the way, a funny story. I mean, I knew how to speak English when I first moved to the United States, but I thought I knew how to speak English well. I did not. So the first job that I actually had when I first moved to the United States was selling comedy tickets in Times Square. And again, like when we're talking about all of these moments that did not seem good at the time, but then now awesome because I'm seeing the reason why it would help me in my career is literally grit and communication. So really understanding and enduring the hard moments and really squeezing out the lessons that came with the hard moments and being an effective communicator, I thought were very important for me to essentially build my career. And I remember, I think one of the first breakthroughs that I had was in 2008 when Steve Jobs essentially came out and said that he was going to open up the App Store, he's going to open up mobile development for third-party developers. And I immediately jumped into it and, really started learning Objective-C at the time and, just started building my first mobile app and it went really well. And, from there, it just kind of blew up. That's kind of how I built my career. And now I work for KeyBank. I'm the head of applied emerging technologies. Prior to that, I was with TD Bank. I was the head of voice and emerging platforms. And right now, I also work for a nonprofit called Educate to Protect. I'm their chief digital and AI officer. And again, I have a blast contributing and impacting the communities around me.
That's amazing. Talk about a unique way to come into the space. And I do think that's one of the privileges of getting to speak with founders every day is when you can find people that have unique perspectives, either because they had the sort of circuitous way of getting into technology, or they've come up with a different reason. The perspectives are the things that drive everything through. You've seen a lot of that as you've seen a lot of innovation in your career and all sorts of different roles. How have your experiences shaped how you think about looking at emerging technologies and super innovative tech?
Also, the one thing that I would say is just really immersing yourself into it. I think a lot of people hesitate and they're kind of like 50% in it and then not. So then what ends up happening is you have folks that are almost good at something or almost good at everything, which doesn't really mean that they're an expert on everything. So I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at everything at all. But the one thing that, I do love is maintaining that level of curiosity that I think I've maintained that where I don't necessarily think too much about what people think, and I really just continue to drive myself for myself. So when blockchain became very popular, I went into it not necessarily because, it might make money or other people are talking about it. I went into it just because I was very curious on the technology, the use cases for me, and how I think it impact the world. The same goes with right now with AI. It's really amazing how much white noise right now that is producing. How, again, for that like elusive AI ROI that a lot of these like companies are looking for right now, I would say for me, I really just stay true to my curiosities and my belief and what I think will make, not just my life, but everyone else's lives around me better, how it would impact my clients, how it would impact the businesses and organizations I belong in. And as long as I keep that compass straight, I think I'll do okay.
One thing that you've talked about a lot to that point is the importance of mentorship and being able to work with others and teach the next generation. Your incredible curiosity is not only critical for you, but I would imagine critical for others to learn. So how do you think about teaching that or sort of building that in others?
My MO in life is impact, right? So one of the things you've heard me talk about is, impacting communities, impacting my organization. To me, whatever it is that I'm doing right now, if it doesn't have any impact, it's just, I feel like just standing up and leaving because it's just like, there's no point. I believe as well that you can either ask for change or be the change. What I choose to do is change the worlds of other people. So what I mean by that is essentially change the perspective of how other people may or may not perceive the world. And what I mean by that is, so for me, there wasn't necessarily a mentor that necessarily helped me pave the path to where I went to. Let's say when it came to app store development or call it like mobile app development, learning the app store, et cetera, no one was helping me. So given the opportunity to help someone, when someone on LinkedIn would reach out to me and tell me, hey, I've seen you've done this, would you mind helping me? The answer all the time is yes. Because I know that even though it's so small, even though it's little, I know that I would have impacted that person's life enough. So I just multiply that with multiple random acts of kindness where I can. And I do try to extend myself out there and really do try to produce as much mentorship that I can. Because just like what I mentioned, it's all about impact. It's not just what I can do, but it's about what we all can do together.
Speaking of the cup of coffee on the table, I think you said you were up from 2 to 4 a.m. this morning because you were mentoring people.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love doing, so again, I'm still very connected to my Filipino friends in Philippines. So, there are folks that reach out to me and ask for mentorship, et cetera. And, again, given the time difference, there are certain folks that reach out to me and tell me, hey, this is the time that I can do it. So I knew that I needed to drive to Boston today. I knew that I was going to be up anyway. So I definitely just told folks, hey, you know what? I'm going to be up anyway. Here's the time that I'm available. And, there are sacred hours that I keep. So me and my wife have showtime hours, right? Where my wife and I would sit on the couch and it's just like undisturbed. That's our quality time together. And like, there's no work or anything that goes in between that. Same goes my time with my son, when we have dinner, nothing goes in between that. But for my time, and especially when my wife goes to sleep, when everyone's asleep in the house, and any opportunity I get to give back to folks that, need it, or really just give back to a country that has given me so much, or give back to people so they don't leave Philippines, which, and I'm not sure if folks are aware, but Philippines, their biggest export is people. And the reason why I continue to mentor people as much as I can in Philippines is to help people stay in Philippines and have them maneuver their way around Philippines to avoid this thing called brain drain. So essentially what I would do is essentially give people the tools and the knowledge into how they can adapt in Philippines to then start their own businesses in Philippines and empower them there so they wouldn't have to leave. So we have more educated people in Philippines so it becomes less corruptible.
That's such an amazing story. And I do think one of the things we love about technology is how it can democratize talent and access. There's still many obstacles, but I think you're a great example. You can learn how to code video games. You can create mobile. I mean, you can have these incredible careers primarily and a lot self-taught, just out of pure curiosity.
Well, here's the thing that, I'd say, right? Like anytime you're going through bad moments in life, I'd say the first thing, you need to do is just endure. So for founders out there kind of like going through a tough moment, make sure that you don't avoid it. Like really work through it, really embrace the moment, squeeze the lesson out of it. And if you're listening to this right now and you're looking at me and you're telling me, Miguel, that's BS. There's no lesson in this. You haven't squeezed hard enough or you haven't dug enough to actually find the lesson because there is a lesson there. You just haven't dug enough. And then the second piece is you need to appreciate it. All the things that's tough in life has absolutely made tough people. If you actually listen to every champion out there, no one ever said, I was just handed a championship. What you hear them say is, if everyone woke up at 5 o'clock, they woke up at 4. They started working out at 4. They started working out at 3. They did the crazy stuff, and that's the reason why they work. But also at the same time, I don't want to neglect the people that did fail because a lot of people say, I worked really hard. That's why I succeeded. That's also kind of BS because people who failed also worked really hard. It's just that based off of like circumstance, they might not have had the quote unquote success that they were looking for. But the thing is that, this is the funny thing about like success is that success is essentially a spotlight that we put on something. And when we put it on something, there's so many things surrounding that we may not be seeing that is success. And we're just not counting it. And that's the funny thing about like the human mind is that, there's so many good things that come out of a situation and because you're not looking, you're missing all of it. The thing is, it's just like, if you do it by volume, people fail way more than they do succeed. So if you also look at it from the perspective of the championship team, if kind of like use sports analogies, etc., you don't necessarily count how many times a person misses a shot. Let's say Michael Jordan like tries to shoot a ball. You don't necessarily count like how many times that person has missed the shot. The stats that matter are like most points that person has scored in one game, how many championships that person has done, etc. So same goes with you. Like you have to look at it from the positive perspective. So as a founder, yes, there's going to be tons of late nights and you're going to have to eat that up and you're going to have to like do that. There's going to be a ton of like tough calls. And maybe in the beginning, you're going to be doing a lot of the cold calling yourself. And that's good because when you do train someone to do cold calling, you get to tell that person, yes, I did that too. So you can empathize. You can actually now build a relationship with the person that you hired, a much deeper relationship because you did that too. So when that person tells you that job is hard, you're not telling that person, no, work harder. No, you actually root back to that one conversation you had when you were doing a cold call, that one difficult moment. And you get to tell this person, oh yeah, no, I know. And then you get to comfort this person and you tell this person, you know what, let's go grab a drink. Let's make it all better.
And the thing that you're naturally bringing up in that is when you fail, the team around you matters as well. That's part of why we started Venture Guides was because we wanted to make sure, look, founding a company, you live in the ones and the tens. Some day it's the best day in the world and some days it feels like the world is ending. But if you have the right team around you and the right support systems, our thesis is then we can build each other back up, learn from all the pain and build lasting companies together.
Right. And that's the thing that even like with team building, I keep telling my top performers, if you want to get stuff, but we know that it's not stuff. If you want to get stuff done, do it yourself. If you want to go far, let's do it together. So I do think that having a team that sticks by you for better or for worse is extremely important. That partnership is so crucial for you starting your own company because you don't have to do this alone.
Yeah. And speaking of our team, I do think I'd love to pivot a little bit and provide some advice to some of our teammates, which are the founders that are in our portfolio. You have so much domain expertise in this space. I'd love to be able to share a little bit of your perspective. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see startup founders making?
Creating a transactional relationship. One of like the things that a lot of startup founders do is they do the traditional route of sales as a numbers game. I'm just going to call like 50 people and then, I'm going to look at it from a funnel perspective. If I do 50 phone calls and 10 pick up and then 2 buy, like we're good. No, it's just like the thing that I keep telling folks is like, you can create 10 phone calls that have like meaningful relationships. And I keep telling folks, like, especially the vendor side of the house, call it like the security industry and the app industry, data industry, it doesn't matter. It's a small world. And also at the same time, whatever job you have, the one thing about the world too is like, nothing's forever. Everything's temporary, including your job. So when you shift jobs and you shift companies and now you're selling a different thing, how many people are going to talk to you again? So one of the things that I tell folks is there are salespeople in my career, especially like I'm on the practitioner buyer side, right? Like, so there are folks like salespeople on my end that when they call my phone and I see their name, I pick up because I see their name, not because I'm thinking of the company they're representing, etc. I literally pick up that phone call because I have a great relationship with them. And I know that they're always thinking about my problems. But at the end of the day, as a founder, right, or even as an AE, you got to ask yourself, how many reusable phone calls do you have in your Rolodex? How many deep relationships do you have where you just know that this person will do a referral call with you?
You're reminding me, one of the things that we're talking about at our annual meeting is that we're using software in our interactions with customers now more than ever. And there's a lot of benefits to that because there's more data that we can pull and we can remember things over time. And that's all great. The downside is you risk turning the customer into a commodity. And as soon as you turn someone else into a commodity, they're going to turn you into a commodity back. And then all of a sudden, you don't have those reusable phone calls anymore.
Yes. Agreed. And it's to be a reciprocation of the relationship, right? But here's the thing that I keep telling people, right? So when you're looking at any solution, right? So it doesn't really matter if it's sales or your life. How you solve for things, it's people, process, tools. The people aspect of it is truly the variable that matters. So what I mean by that is you can give me and Tiger Woods the same golf clubs and the output is completely different. So if let's say you're, instead of calling someone and you know that, again, like a typical phone call, like checking up on a person, etc., you're calling someone because you're checking up on a contract versus you're calling, a client because they just got back from vacation. You're actually interested in learning, hey, how was your vacation? How's your time with your family? And actually not talking about the contract and then just like hanging up and then calling the next day to actually express that you care about the relationship, you care about this person's thoughts, feelings, family, etc. That's really going to resonate. And once the person knows that, again, the relationship is not, this person's not being treated like a commodity, that's going to get reciprocated back. For the most part, it's not going to be a win all the time, but, you can only control your actions.
Absolutely. Okay, well, so I know that we are running out of time. I wish we could do this all day. This has been really fun. I know our listeners appreciate it. I want to come back to AI has so much potential. And yet we're seeing challenges with adoption. We're seeing security risks, both in AI creating new phishing attacks and all that, but also risks of AI itself. There's so much noise in this space. You, with your intense curiosity, I'm sure you've been working with it. I'd love to hear, how are you thinking about AI?
I would say, for the most part, I get it, like a lot of folks kind of use this excuse of, well, I don't have time, so then I'm just going to rely on other people telling me or other forums telling me, right? So it's almost like you'll get these executives, just reading headlines. And they read the headlines and then they kind of just like reactively tell the people, oh, like we should do this. So you'll start seeing some leaders do this too in your organization, or maybe not, but you'll start hearing leaders kind of say, we need to do AI, and it's almost just like then you kind of double click on it and you ask them, okay, why or on what? It doesn't matter. We just need to do AI. So we know that, okay, that's a shallow expression of we need to do AI. There's also, you have these other leaders where everything is AI. So any solution, it's almost just like, hey, like, I need to hang this picture for you should use AI. It's just like every solution is just AI. Let's, like force this like cube into the cylindrical shaped hole. So it's just hilarious. So the thing that, I would tell folks is really just do the reading yourself. That's kind of like one thing. But then the other piece too is like, and this is level 2, is actually do it. You'll know the difference between people reading about riding a bike and people who've actually ridden a bike. And then you'll know that the other folks that's actually doing like somersaults and like doing half pipes on a bike. And what I mean by that is that there's like certain degrees of like knowledge and expertise, right? Like when someone who's like read about riding a bike, if you were riding a bike and you're talking to someone who's only read about riding a bike, would you really care about what their opinions and their advice is? You wouldn't. They're not even doing it. So why would it matter? But you would listen to someone who's like doing half pipes and doing somersaults because you would be like, oh my gosh, that's XP level. It's where I want to be. So I would say, like you're the master of your destiny. Choose where you want to be. So if you want to be surface level knowledge when it comes to AI and just want to collect that paycheck, get the title of head of AI in your organization and not really know anything and just collect that paycheck, hey, be that person, more power to you, great. But if you actually want to provide impact and make a difference and be the change, I would say do your homework, do your reps. Don't just show up to the gym. Actually use that treadmill, go to your computer. Don't just read the headline, subscribe to these AI platforms. If you haven't used ChatGPT at this point, use ChatGPT, ask it simple tasks, like do something. I would say there's so many different tools right now that you can do, but I would say start with ChatGPT, start doing image generation, start there. And then once you've gone through that, really start going into agentic AI, start going into, what are the tasks you can do? So I would say there's like different levels of AI that you should be thinking about. I would advise folks, don't listen too much on like the white noise. Focus more on actually looking for that information yourself and make your own decision.
I think the theme that I'm picking up on for this episode is whatever you're doing, be passionate about it and immerse yourself. Whether it's technology trends or coding a video game or building relationships with people, bring in your passion, immerse yourself, be all in. And then that's how you find success.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that I tell people is that a job will tire you out. But doing something you're passionate with, you do that every day. You do that every day nonstop. And so you have to ask yourself, right, with anything that you're doing right now. So even for founders or just a regular person, with whatever it is that you're doing right now, the room that you're sitting in, etc., is this the thing that you'd rather do right here, right now? Is this the thing that you want to do? If it's not, then what are you doing here? So it's the same thing like being a founder. Is your goal to make money or actually start this company? Because if your job is to make money, I'll tell you right now, there's about like 10,000 more things that will make you money. You don't have to start a company and make money.
Like $100 million signing bonuses now.
Absolutely. So then that's kind of like the thing that, I tell folks is figure out what your goal is, and if it requires what you're doing right now, great, do what you need to do. But for the most part, if you're not passionate about what you're doing right now, you only live once. Again, stand up and then move on. Take ownership, impact your own life, make that decision now. And again, it might not be so abrupt that, just stand up and go, create a plan, create a plan. And listen, if you're having a hard time, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll help you out.
Well, I got to say that your passion comes through is an understatement. So thank you so much for your time, Miguel. This has been absolutely amazing. I think it's going to be life-changing for many of our listeners and such great insights all the way through. So thank you.
Thank you so much again.
Is there anywhere that people can go if they want to learn more about you or any of the work that you do?
So I would say the first place to start is LinkedIn. You can always search Miguel Navarro on LinkedIn. You'll see an Asian dude with long hair, red shirt. That's me. And I would say, I typically post essentially my conference track anytime I'm going somewhere or when I'm speaking. A lot of the companies typically post where I'm going. I would say when you see me in conferences, and a lot of people do this, is they absolutely just come up to me, say hi, and introduce themselves. I absolutely enjoy that because just, again, going back to the beginning, my MO is impact, right? Why I'm here and why I enjoy what I do is because I'm impacting people. And I'm able to essentially change people's perspectives, et cetera, have the conversation, all of that. So really, folks are doing me a favor anytime they reach out to me and have that conversation because I know that what I'm doing matters. Yeah, and that's what's important.
Awesome. Well, I predict that you are going to be overwhelmed at your next conference. Miguel, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Built Not Born, the Startup Go-to-Market podcast, is brought to you by Venture Guides. To find out more about Venture Guides and how our Venture Capital Plus guiding model helps early-stage startups build scalable go-to-market strategies and grow faster, visit ventureguides.com. And then make sure to search for Built Not Born in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, or anywhere else that you listen. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and we look forward to building with you. On behalf of the team here at Venture Guides, thanks for listening. Until next time, keep building.